Hi everyone, very good morning. My name is Mohit. I'll be your guide and I'll be assisting you with your SOAR journey for the next couple of weeks. So, a very warm welcome to the first day of your SOAR journey. And I'm genuinely excited to have all of you here. Uh, if you guys, before we start the sessions, if you guys have any questions or if any queries or any doubts regarding our sessions, you can feel free to ask anytime in between. You can drop the queries in the chats. And once a topic is over, maybe if you have some queries around that, we can have a questionnaire around that. Apart from that, like for today's session, it would be purely theoretical, so we won't be having any hands-on for today's session. It is going to be a theoretical session, majorly on what SOAR is and what are its capabilities. So before I set the stage, before we begin into the proper sessions, do you guys have any queries for me or any doubts, anything which you would like to address?
No, sir.
Okay, I guess then we are good to go. So before we dive in, what SOAR is, what security, automation, orchestration, response, what these topics are, our goal, I would like to set this stage that our goal here is to make the complex topics to feel easy to understand. And to do that, I'm going to use an analogy going through my sessions. Now, what that analogy is going to be, I want you all to imagine that the work we do in the work is like we are doing our work in the world's busiest kitchen and the most popular kitchen, like a Michelin star kitchen. We are working there. Now, what that thing actually means. So the SOC operations center, the security operations center, the SOC, or the workplace of you, consider it as a kitchen, and inside that, any new alert which comes to you, any new order can be treated as an order for you. So the this chaotic, high stress, non-stop environment, this is going to be a security operations center or a SOC. It is the heart of your company's cyber defense. And now in this picture, what are you going to do? You are the highly skilled, talented chef in that kitchen. So the analogy is in that kitchen, you are the chef who handles these orders. You are the security analyst, you are the security chef, maybe you can say. Your job is to take every single order, every single incident or alert or event, be these names change from tool to tool, and to make this every single order, every alert into a perfectly handled dish. Now, when we say perfectly handled dish, we mean that properly processed, properly investigated, all the remediation steps are followed or not, all the investigation steps are completed or not, making sure all these steps are completed. We look into it in that manner. Any doubts around this? What exactly I'm trying to explain with the analogy? Okay, so the contents which we are going to see today, the challenges, life in a traditional SOC. What challenges do we face in a traditional SOC? Then we will see what the solution is, what automation is, what are core components of the SOAR platform, the power of integration, and what are the key benefits and the why of having a in the SOAR in our life. And finally, we'll end it with the incident life cycle, how the life cycle of an incident looks like in a SOAR. Okay, coming to the part where what are the challenges in a traditional SOC. So I want to keep these sessions pretty much interactive. So if you guys can unmute yourself one by one and tell me that according to you, what are the challenges do you face, or probably most many of you would be actually working in the cyber field or maybe looking to move into the cyber field. So according to you, what challenges a analyst or a person who deals with these alerts is facing in a traditional SOC environment without these automation tools? What kind of challenges they might be facing? Okay, mostly false positive.
Repetitive false positives we are getting, and while working on them, we got to know, okay, this is already marked as a false positive, but in different conditions. So in that case, we are unable. We have to work on those kind of alert manually.
Okay. Anyone else would like to try as well? No?
One of the problem statement we can mention about the large number of false positive that need to be investigated manually, which
Okay.
result in lots of human power effort go in vain.
Okay. That sounds correct. Anyone else? Any other
Yeah,
tries?
SOAR really helps to make a workflows, and with the workflow, we can reduce the false positive noises.
Okay. That's specific to so, but makes sense. Any other tries, anyone? Would like to give it a try?
Copy
Okay.
paste work will be more.
Sorry.
Copy paste work will be more in traditional SOC.
Copy paste work. Okay. So the biggest challenge which in the traditional SOC as a security analyst could face is the number of alerts they are getting. It could be false positive, it could be true positive, false negative, any kind of alert. But the amount of alerts is the first and foremost they are facing. So you are a chef, you are talented, you know your craft. On a normal day, you can handle a few dozen complex orders. Like suppose you can handle around maybe 15 incidents, 20, 50, 30, 40, depending on your capabilities, your experience, the volume of alert, like the criticality of that alert, if it is a critical alert, high alert, medium alert, depending on all those, you would also have your own bandwidth that you can handle. Maybe in a day, you have a capacity to handle around 50 alerts in a day. But in general, what in a SOC environment could be happening, like if there is a phishing campaign going on in your SOC environment, or if some phishing simulation happened, if someone actually tried to do a phishing attack on your system or a DDoS attack, you might get a lot of alerts. I have seen customers who are getting around 1,000 alerts a day, 2,000 alerts a day. So in that scenario, if a SOC team is comprising of maybe 10 people, so if and we have a capacity of around 1,000 to 2,000 alerts, so that means you would be handling approximately 100 to 200 alerts per person. So the biggest problem which a person faces is the alert fatigue. Thousands of alerts every day, or you will have to do the same redundant work every time. This is the reality. Average security team receives thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of security alerts every single day. So just imagine you enter your kitchen and you have around 1,000 tickets for different orders. And printing machine keeps on going on printing more and more new orders for you. So exactly all you need to make you are tend to make mistakes because of these so many alerts. What you'll have to do, you'll have to switch between multiple tools. Like you have tools like VirusTotal, you have a tool like QRadar. So suppose an alert is generated, you got it in your QRadar. Now in order to investigate what those source IPs are, what those destination IPs are, or what that actual URL looks like, all those things, you need to use different tools. QRadar itself cannot tell you all those stuff. Or Splunk cannot tell you all those stuff that what actually that source IP is, whether it was you, what is the enrichment data for that. So in order to use that enrichment data, you would navigate to a third party tool, maybe a VirusTotal, WHOIS, Abuse IPPD, Recorded Future, any third party threat intelligence tool. You would go there and enrich it, collect your data and store it somewhere. Then after getting the details of the IPs, maybe you want to check the URLs, you would go into your sandbox environment, try to open those URLs, see what actually that URL looks like, what actually that URL is doing, and then you will come back again, keep store that as a finding or as a note in your system. So eventually and then all these data events you have collected, you might have to go to a ticketing tool. In the ticketing tool, you would create a ticket. Once the ticket is logged, that ticket goes to suppose you were working for some use case which was on the uh, IPs associated with IPs. Now you want those IPs to get blocked. So now you would raise a ticket with your firewall team who is going to get it blocked. That ticket goes for the approvals. You need to follow up with your managers probably to uh, handle all those alerts. And eventually, when whether that IP has got blocked or not, you need to follow up on those things. Once the firewall team blocks it, or maybe you are the one only who needs to handle the firewall blocking as well. So once you have done all those stuff, then you come back, enter your inputs, and then that alert gets closed. So multiple tools you had to go through. This could take multiple hours or maybe few days sometimes for one particular alert to close from end to end. So that is what the alert fatigue would look like. High volume, repetitive manual tasks. This was for one alert. What all I explained. Now you might need to do that same thing for like 10 alerts, 20 alerts of the same type. Every day doing the same thing repetitively, manually, it tends to errors. Now, what kind of errors? Like someone was mentioning, too much copy paste. So yes, too much things you need to from one portal you need to copy paste and store it somewhere. Then second portal, then third portal, then combine everything, create it in a formatted manner, and eventually send it as a ticket or as an informational or response from your side. Now, the other factor which can lead here is that the language or the way of writing those responses can also differ. But when I say this, that means is when an analyst is entering their response or providing their analysis, what they might do is one person way of writing something might differ from the way of the person writing the other thing, or the number of experience for these two persons would differ. So once that differs, the quality or the type of analysis they both are going to do that might also differ. So if you're working for a client, your SOC team is selling their services to some particular client. So that client would find it more frustrating to see different types of analysis for the same type of alert. For a phishing analysis, you are using two different types of analysis body. You are using two different formats. You are using two different way of writing those analysis. So it would be hard for them to track if they are trying to automate stuff at their end and using some regex values or some automation tool. So to find patterns, they might find issues with that. And finally, the slow response times and higher risk of human error. Suppose you are trying to copy something from the virus total. You were intended to copy something else, but mistakenly you pasted something else. Or you were working in three different alerts simultaneously. So you copy pasted your analysis from alert number one and pasted it in alert number three. So this confusion or this mistake leads to a ticket creation, and the issues which it might encounter, or you might encounter some things which were not supposed to get blocked, they will get blocked. Or you might end up creating multiple tickets for the same alert, and then follow up comes from the firewall team why multiple tickets are created, or from the ServiceNow or Jira team that why so many tickets are getting created. Then you will be into the scrutiny perspective by your SOC managers that why multiple tickets are getting created. And then comes another factor, which is the slow response time. So in any SOC or any organization where these kinds of alerts are associated, the major thing which we need to keep in mind is the SLAs, service level agreements. So for every severity of alert, your organization, if they're selling their services to a third party company, like suppose company A is having a SOC and they're selling their SOC services to company number B. So company A and company B would sign a agreement between them that is called a service level agreement. In that, for every type of severity of alert, like for critical, medium, high, low, there would be some time frame defined stating that, like for critical, within 30 minutes, we are going to send a response or acknowledge this alert. So that acknowledgement becomes your mean time to acknowledgement. That is MTTA. Now, if you are going to then there would be one time defined for a response that becomes your mean time to response. So the amount of time it takes for an analyst to or company to acknowledge an alert, that becomes your MTTA. The amount of time it takes to provide you and for you to provide a response for an alert, that would be counted as your MTTR. So MTTI is there where how much time it took you complete the investigation, or you started the investigation and you completed the investigation. So different criticality, different these values would be. For critical, maybe it could be 30 minutes, 1 hour, and 2 hours, respectively. That within 30 minutes you would acknowledge it, within 1 hour or 2 hours you would complete your investigation, and within 4 hours or maybe 6 hours you come up with a response for it or resolution for it. That becomes your timings for the criticality. Similarly, for high, they would be much comparatively higher. Like suppose for your critical incidents, MTTA was 30 minutes, but for a high incident, it could be 1 hour or 2 hours. For a medium incident, it could be 4 hours, and for a low incident, it could be 8 hours. So for when we say 8 hours, it means that whenever a low incident comes, you have 8 hours to acknowledge that incident, that you have started working on that. If you breach that, if you go ahead of 8 hours, then you won't be able, then you would be breaching your SLA, and eventually you're breaking that service level agreement.
Hello.
Yes, Bhupesh, you have some query.
Yeah,
Hello.
thanks for that. Sorry, can I get your name? Who's the trainer for today?
Mohit.
Hi, Mohit. Mohit, I have a question. You mentioned about all these things, right? MTTR, MTTI. Just a question. So this mean time to respond, is this also like considered as mean time to resolve? Are those both things same?
No, no. Mean time to response is something like there would be MTTA, that is mean time to acknowledgement, that you have started working on it. Then suppose there would be something called mean time to response, where you have provided a response to that. Okay, we are investigating this. This is our first level of findings. And the mean time to resolution is that you have end to end completed that investigation and that alert is kind of getting closed. So there would be difference. Resolution is when you have completed the whole remediation part as well. But in response, it is not including the remediation as well. You have provided an initial level of investigation and you are providing a response to the customer. So some places you use a MTTA, or some places you may be using mean time to response. So
Because what
depends
I have
on what your
seen,
organization is tracking.
yeah, what I've seen is usually SOC team will not own the resolution because they have to work with different teams. So they will own the acknowledgement part, which is mean time to acknowledge, right? And then investigation and response. Response means that okay, they have given their finding, but eventual resolution may depend on many factors, right? It will depend on some other team. So that
Yes,
resolution will eventually be a combined effort, right? So
yes. So
okay,
that is what I'm saying. So depends on what terminologies you are using in your environment. Every company or every SOC might not be recording or maintaining all these. For your setup, maybe you are using the mean time resolution in a manner, mean time to resolution or mean time to response. So to two things. Resolution, as I said, everything which has been completed and end to end, the alert has been completed. Now, your in your organization, SOC team is not taking up the ownership, but in some organizations, SOC team might be taking up that ownership as well. Or as a part of the SOC team itself, there would be one subset which is dealing with these resolutions as well. So overall, for the customer whom you're dealing with, they will consider this as the final result for them, the MTT, mean time to resolution. They are not going to see what is the bifurcation within your own SOC environment. So depending on
okay.
how your structure is, it will also differ.
Yeah, to my understanding, like for example, resolution may also include in some cases like containment, eradication, all those things, right?
Yes.
So That will
Resolution
go.
includes everything from end to
Yeah.
end.
I just have one more question. Sorry. So I pasted on the chat also. See, I'm also security architect, so I work on like some of those proposals as well
Mm.
for our customers. So one question usually comes, right, and that's where I just want to check with everybody out here, including you, is that based on your experience, what's the typical time an analyst takes to, let's say, investigate a L1 in event, right? Notable event, right? So, is it like, can we safely take half an hour per event, or can we safely take, let's say, one person can do 20 events per day? What has been you guys' experience when you worked in your environment?
See, to be honest, depends on the criticality of the alert as well and the type of the alert as well. It would
Mhm.
highly depend on that. If a person is if a person have to log into multiple tools, like if he is getting those alerts in one tool, suppose a QRadar or Splunk, and then he needs to navigate, do the sandboxing, do the enrichment on all those in multiple tools, then the time might increase like from 30 minutes to 45 minutes per incident, as well as depending on the criticality as well. But in general, if you the current scenario, what it says, it doesn't take that much of time. Reason being, most of the tools have got these automations enabled in them, where the analyst or the team are having these datas readily available. So that time has considerably decreased. Now, yes, for the data they can get it, but for to interpret it, to get the actual value out of it, and how much time do they take to create that analysis or their response for it, that depends on the experience from L1 and L2 as well. Like suppose a L1 who is having a 1 year or 2 years of experience might take more time to interpret the same data, and a person who is a L2 with more than 3 years of experience, maybe that he might take lesser amount of time to interpret the same data. Reason being, because of his experience, he knows what pointers they need to check. So on an average, you can consider maybe, yeah, around 30 to 45 minutes would be there when there is a lot of manual effort required. If a lot of manual effort is not required, that time comes down to considerably. This is for which we are going to use the SOAR.
Yeah, I agree. It also depend upon individual capability and skill set.
Exactly. So depending on your years of experience, depending on what type of incident is it, like for a basic phishing email, you might not have to go into much deeper analysis if it doesn't have any attachment, or if it is a basic email. But if it is having attachment, if it is having embedded URLs, IOCs, then you would have to extract all those things, enrich those data, get an understanding of that attachment. Probably, if it is an executable file, you need to get the details around that, and then you will be able to provide your analysis. So depending on the type of the alert, the severity, the scale of that alert, that also makes your analysis time differ as well. And coming to the
I,
pointer, like how many incidents, alerts they might handle in a day, in a day-to-day life, it could differ. Like if it is a 8 hour shift, maybe around 30 to 50 incidents, or 20, 25, 30 incidents. Again, the quality of the incidents also differs. So that is on an average you can expect a person to handle from a SO perspective, I can say.
yeah, yeah. Why I ask that question is I have to frequently estimate this, and I have been
Mm,
doing this for some time. Like you guys said, of course, it depends on maturity of the tooling, maturity of the people who are handling the effort. So all those factors are there. But usually, when we have to estimate that, right? During the estimation, you may not have all these information handy, saying that, hey, how mature is customer's environment, right? Maybe tooling is something you know. So we take a approximation, right? So saying that, okay, on an average, if the maturity is somewhat good, right? So this is the effort we take. So
mm.
we have to do a kind of approximation. So
Yes, I understand that. Like from the initial level, when the emojis are getting signed, you might have to give an estimation. But again, now you try to keep that buffer in your SLAs. Like for a critical incident, in general, if a critical incident or a high severity incident is coming, you would have guided your SOC team to firstly prioritize those alerts. So in general, they would be giving their mean time to acknowledge. That mean time to acknowledge, or the acknowledgement time, would be considerably less, but you still get 30 minutes. Reason being,
that is something which you are suggesting, that within 30 minutes at least we are going to acknowledge this, that we have started working on it. So it in general would not take for a critical incident for to take 30 minutes to get acknowledged. It would be pretty much less. That is something which is being guided to the SOC teams in general, like to prioritize the critical, then the high, then the low. So depending on that, also some buffer is added. So that 30 minutes is also including some buffer for a critical incident. That is MTTA, not the resolution time or the response time or the investigation time. That is just for the acknowledgement. Then you are giving more time for your team to acknowledge, analyze that, remediate that, all those stuff. You have more time given to them. It's not something like 30 minutes is only provided to an analyst. We provide more time to them, but for the acknowledgement part or different types of SLAs, there would be some buffer included.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Coming to the pointers. Now, suppose
And
this is what,
it also depends upon company has different types of SLAs as well with the
yes,
client.
yes, depending on the, if you are working in a MSSP environment where you are selling your services to multiple customers, for one customer, your SLA might differ from your second customer. The same team working on them, they might have more time for one of the organization, but have less time for the same alert, same criticality for the another organization. So depending on how you have got your MOU signed, how you have your service level agreements signed, that might differ.
I work for MSSP. So the way we work is that, of course, we have our default suggested SLAs, right? So
Yes,
we go with them if customer does not have a specific requirement. But if customer comes up a requirement, then we review it and then agree jointly
yes,
with customer.
exactly.
That's how
So
it works.
yes, so depends on the customer requirements, and like customers cannot also have an unrealistic expectation that give me a within 5 minutes I want a critical alert to be acknowledged. But and you are providing 30 minutes. So you would be coming somewhere in the middle ground that okay, we can not do 5 minutes, we cannot do 30 minutes, maybe around 20 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. Some middle ground would be find out. So
There are
all
two things. Yeah, there are two things out here, right? One is the SLA factor that you are talking about. Second is for estimation of the size of team itself, right? How much, how do we see that one person will be able to handle how many
hmm,
incidents per day, right? So that is a sizing factor. So two different things I'm talking about.
yes, agreed on that as well. Okay, these were the problems which we might face in a traditional SOC. Like, let's suppose we take an example. If we have a phishing alert, so what all different types of steps you might have to do in your daily SOC life? Like from a traditional SOC, suppose you don't have a SOAR environment available for you, which is automating everything and giving you the stuff ready. Instead of that, if you had to do a phishing analysis, the actual the manner which we are taught initially, the manual manner. So what all steps, the basic steps, not very detailed one, but what all steps are we going to follow for that? Would anyone like to try that? In a phishing email analysis. So what all steps are we going to do from a like for this kind of alert, a phishing alert? This is one alert for you or one order for you. So what all steps or the procedures you are going to see in a particular phishing email? What all pointers do you guys check?
Yes,
Mainly,
Senders, address,
yeah,
SPF,
we need to check, the phishing emails, usually, it shows some urgency or it has the misspell
content.
in there, yeah, email ID, name, okay. So we need to interpret that, and we also would like, we need to check whether there is a way to check whether the mail, SPF, and some other details are genuine or not. So there is a
Okay.
Microsoft tools is there. I just forgetting the name, where we can find whether this email is from the legitimate source or not.
Okay. So let's see what all pointers we can see on a generic basis for a phishing analysis. The step-by-step procedure for an analyst perspective would be as a chef. Sorry, someone was saying something. Someone had some doubt or some query? Okay. So from a phishing analysis perspective, from an analyst, the first very foremost thing they will have to open the alert. They see it on the dashboard, so they click on the open alert. They copy the link from the email. Now, in that email body, you might have emails embedded, the URLs embedded in that email body. So you'll have to hover over that, extract those email body URLs, and probably go and check that IP address which you got, from which that email came. That you need to go in your virus total, check it whether it is a known malicious one. If it is a known malicious one, you can get that data. If it is a suspicious or a benign indicator, you collect that data and store it in your notepad. Then you check your sender's email address, whether it is an internal email address, it is an external email address. You would check all those aspects, and then you would collect your analysis and store it. Then comes for the embedded URLs, the attachments which you have. What type of attachment is it? What is the hash values for those attachments? Again, you would go to third-party tools for checking the hash values, their enrichment stories, their enrichment data. Then you would collect that data and store it somewhere. So after collecting all these reputations, you would check the headers, you would check the reputation of these embedded values. After all that, you have to go back to your main system, make your notes, decide what to do. Now, after as per your analysis, if you see it is an external IP and the IP shows as suspicious or malicious in virus total, or and as well as third party tool like recorded future, you have 2 or 3 threat intel tools. So every tool, every pan, you would go paste it there, collect that data, and understand if say out of 3 tools, two are saying it is malicious, one is saying it is suspicious. So then you need to decide, okay, most of the like majority of the tools are stating it as malicious. The hash values are also considered as malicious. So based on your analysis, then you will finalize your verdict that okay, I want to get this IP blocked. I want to get this IOCs blocked or stored in my threat intel database, stating that later on, if some new alert comes containing these values, they some new email comes, it would be considered as an alert and it could get blocked. So you would be logging that into the firewall ticket, firewall team. If you have that direct access to the firewalls, you would go and block them. But in general, we have a separate firewall team. So that firewall team will go get it blocked. Then they would send a response back to you. Eventually, you would read the response, close that alert in your QRadar or Splunk or whichever tool where you got this alert. So this would become a manual process where you had to log in into multiple tabs, copy paste that same data multiple times. So it would in general around take around 30 minutes to 45 minutes, as we were mentioning, depending on the speed and the connectivity speed as well, and different other factors which we had discussed currently. Okay. Now let's say we have another alert which is called multiple login failed attempts. We come across an alert which is for a person trying to log in multiple times and they failed it. So we got an alert triggered in our SIM. So what kind of analysis you might be doing for that? Any one would like to try that for a multiple failed login attempt?
You will check the Active Directory logs, what is happening in Active Directory.
Okay.
Yeah, on Okta or any MFA logs.
Okay. Anything else?
First, we will check whether it is internal IP or external IP. If it is internal, then it might be genuine. If it is external, then we might need to analyze from where this IP is originating. Then maybe further we need to start the analysis.
And also would like to go through the timings and the behavior of the account lockout
Okay.
and the location. We will try to find out the location and
How many times it's failed or
yep.
Oh.
So that will indicate a lot because
and
And one
it
thing I like to add here, the type of account, the position of whom your that account is being used. Like, is it an admin account or is it a normal the analyst level account, whose account has been getting these types of alert?
And
What is the
also,
frequency?
yeah,
Yeah.
we would like to also get to know, whether this account has been created newly, and then the attacker has tried to get access. So
And
these
who's
alerts
the
will give.
person is like, is a like senior person or
Hmm.
those stuff as well. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what I have. The basic ones. Where is it?
Thank you. Are you going to share these documents as well?
Yes, these documents would be shared with you. I'll create a Google Drive. I'll upload these documents over there, and you guys can access it from there.
Thank you.
No issues. Okay, multiple failed login attempts. What do you do? A complete different step, but still manual set of tasks. We check what the scenario is. Alice is the analyst who is working, and she opens the alert. The Alice is the person who tried to log in multiple times, or the account for whom the multiple login failed attempts came to us is for the Alice account. So we open the alert for the Alice. What computer was she trying to log in into? Whether it is an internal IP, external IP, what informations we got, or to which network she was trying to log it into. We get to try to get those details. Then, where did the login attempt came from? You need to check the source IP. Like if it is from if the employee is from India and that attempt is also coming from India itself, then it is a bit less suspicious compared to if that login attempt is coming from outside your India, or maybe from your work location other than from some other state. Then again, that could be suspicious compared to the general login activity of that person from where they log in. Then you check that IP addresses, whether that IP address is external or internal. If it is external, what is the suspiciousness of it, whether it is malicious, suspicious. We check all those aspects. Then what is the role of Alice? Whether it is a senior person, whether she is a finance person, or is some system which she was trying to log in into, whether it contains sensitive data. All those things you need to check in your HR system, or maybe your AD servers, or somewhere where these database where you have all these logs stored for you. Then finally, also, suppose you find it a bit suspicious but not sure. The other thing which you need to do is you need to connect with Alice and confirm whether this was a legitimate activity. Maybe she is in a international uh, work travel or something, but still she was facing some error and this alert got triggered. But it is a genuine alert that okay, she was genuinely trying to do these login attempts and it is not a alert which some else person or XYZ person an attacker was trying to do. So you need to verify that from Alice as well. You would have to call her up or mail her up, and then based on the criticality, if it is a very critical one or high severity incident, you would go and call them up. If it is very low one, you would probably go and check it with the through the mails as well. If she doesn't respond, you might have to call her up then later on. So depending on all these, again, it would take time since you had to log in into multiple tools. You had to call that person up. Finally, you would get all these data and finally decide whether it is a true positive or is a false positive. If it is false positive, you will state that it was genuine activity, false positive alert, and go ahead and close that alert. But if it is true positive, you'll have to get these IPs blocked, or you would have to reset the password of the Alice and then ask her to create a new password, apply some password policies. All those steps we need to see, and eventually that will lead us to analyze one single alert. If multiple attempts are happening for multiple different people, these all steps you need to do for multiple different people across different times. It again takes a lot of time. So the time is the actual money which we need to save. The swiftness, the way we can swiftly respond to these alerts, that is something which every organization actually wants. So for two single alerts, you just have performed over a dozen of manual, repetitive, boring tasks, and it probably took you around 45 minutes. Now multiply this by maybe 100 alerts which are need to be taken care of today. So 45 minutes into 200. So again, that leads to a lot of time. Maybe if five people are still working in the shift, that leads to 45 minutes into 20 alerts per person. So that is the amount of time which we spend. The manual efforts put into, they might go in vain if we enter something, some data incorrectly, or some value is entered wrongly. So it's not sustainable. This manual process is not only so slow, it's prone to errors, and every single step is a potential point of failure. We are asking for brilliant chefs to spend all the day just chopping these onions, or washing the stuff, the ingredients they have, collecting these ingredients, and then going to prepare it. So in this scenario, what comes? The tool which we have, the rather not the tool, the technology. So there is a thin line of difference. SOAR is the technology, and the Cortex XOR, the tool which you are going to use, it is the tool which uses this technology. So we introduce the SOAR. Now, what SOAR is? Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. The four pillars which we have, they all come together to create a particular technology which is called SOAR, which helps you to automate these kind of security alerts, which helps you to understand, okay, what all step are we doing? We can try and automate this to what extent? What all things can be remediated through the SOAR itself, or what all these email sending, this ticket creation, taking follow-ups, and blocking something on the firewalls. All these things can be done through this SOAR itself. Now, in the market, you would find multiple SOAR tools from different vendors. The one SOAR tool which we are going to dedicatedly understand is the Cortex XSOAR, which is being provided by the Palo Alto networks. So that is what the SOAR is going to be. We would go into these four different aspects: security, automation, orchestration, response. But before that, let's just complete this part. Okay. Any doubts, anyone so far?
Going to question. So
Hmm.
Palo Alto nowadays have this NG SIM, right? Which is, I think, a combination of SIM, SOAR, everything. So are they still selling this Cortex SOAR as a separate
Yes,
product?
yes, yes, yes. So you, as a Palo Alto offering, you have four products as of now. One is Cortex XOR, the other is Cortex Expanse. So XOR is the SOAR tool, Expanse is your ASM. Then comes the Cortex XDR, that is your XDR tool which they have. And finally comes Cortex XSIM, which you were mentioning, which is a combination of SOAR, XDR, ASM, and also the cloud security. So combination of all these four tools plus the SIM capabilities which they got from the QRadar side, all these five, everything comes together and creates a single final tool called the Cortex XSIM. So that is the end product. If you don't want to have multiple vendors in your organizations, if you can put all your eggs in the same basket and you want one single platform for all analysts and all your teams to work on, then XSIM is your end goal. But if you want dedicated products from different vendors, suppose you are using Splunk in your environment, then you using a XSIM, paying for that XSIM doesn't make sense because it itself has its own SIM. So having two SIM talking to each other doesn't make sense. So you would be using then the XOR. Splunk would become your SIM, and XOR separately can become your SOAR. So that way they are selling those offerings.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay. Now they are coming up with a new tool which is called Cortex Agentix. Now that Agentix, I guess they recently released it around February or March, which is SOAR but with AI capabilities, more enhanced, and eventually that would be replacing probably the Cortex XOR in maybe next 4 or 5 years, something like that. In further down the lane, the support which I came to know for SOAR is going to be there for next 5 to 6 years at least. So SOAR is not going anywhere. It is going to stay. Cortex XOR.
So this
Customers are
Agentix is nothing but the including the Charlotte AI, is it?
Charlotte AI. I'm not sure which AI they are using, but
Okay.
it is majorly the SOAR itself. The look and feel, the logic, the backend looks everything same. The difference is that it has some more AI capabilities, some more new features. So it's like a revamped version of the SOAR,
Okay, got it.
but it's pretty much new. It was launched around Feb or March, so we don't have much idea on that. Coming to what the SOAR is. Now, these four terms: security, automation, orchestration, and response. By the name itself, what secure SOAR is. So, in order to cater to our so many alerts, in order to cater to our so many requirements of different tools, what you can do, or maybe if you are in a kitchen, the analogy which we were going through, if you have to uh, take one person next to like, you need to understand that how many tools you are going to integrate, how many appliances you are going to have together. You need a mixer grinder, you need a chopper, you need a blender, you need some gas stove, some utensils. Multiple things are there. They are all like distributed, they are not connected with each other. You need a streamlined process which connects all these things, which, like, suppose from a chopper the things goes into your blender or your mixer grinder. From there, so it goes into some other utensil. That utensil goes on the stove, and finally everything processes and finally gets me a result. So we need some kind of a actual automated process, or a assistant, or we need an assistant who is lightning fast, who never gets tired, who follows the recipe perfectly. Now the SOPs which you get, like when I say a recipe, there would be some term called SOP which the your security alerts get, security analyst gets, to be honest. My bad. So what these SOP are? Standard operating procedures. So for different types of alerts, you would be provided with different types of SOP. Like what steps needs to be followed in a phishing scenario? What steps needs to be handled for a multiple login failed attempt? What steps you need to follow when you are analyzing a malware investigation? So different types of alerts, there would be different SOPs. Now, if you are doing manually, one person might skip one step out of that SOP mistakenly, not intentionally. So that kind of a scenario could happen or can happen. So what we need a tool which can follow this SOP perfectly every single time. Every single time the taste of this dish is always the same. The way sizes of this onions or the stuff which we are, or the ingredients which we have, the right quantity, right sizes, everything is perfect. So in order to have that, we introduce a new tool which is called SOAR in the cybersecurity world, where it has majorly four components: security, orchestration, automation, and response. Now, when we say security, so security in itself is the cyber security which we are dealing with, the security of your organization from the cyber world. But coming to the orchestration part, now what does this orchestration mean? Orchestration basically means you are, like, consider yourself as a orchestra in conductor, the orchestra which we see of a group of musicians sitting together, all playing the instruments all together. But there would be one conductor. The conductor doesn't play the violin or the trumpet, but the conductor makes sure that the violin and the trumpet plays the right note at the right time. When that firstly the conductor needs to play and then the violin needs to play, that right time, right notes together in harmony, that is what the orchestration of that particular conductor is. So orchestration in our world means making all our different security tools, like threat intel tools, our SIEM tools, our firewall tool, EDR tools, all these tools to work together in harmony. For example, your firewall detects a problem. Without orchestration, it just sits there with a warning light. So once a person logs in into firewall, looks into it, that okay, there is an alert, then only you will come to know. Or if there is some automatic notification mechanism, then you will come to know, until and unless someone logs in into that mailbox and sees that mail. But without orchestration, it just sits there. With orchestration, it can instantly tell your endpoint tool to go quarantine that computer. So what we did, we made our firewall tool to talk to our another tool which is called the endpoint tool. So these tools earlier were sitting ideally disconnected with each other. They were capable of doing their stuff, they can do everything, but if we don't have a bridge between them, if we don't have a connectivity between them, they stay they stand alone. Once an analyst logs into the firewall, they process that alert, and then they understand that alert, they go to the endpoint tool and then get it blocked. But if we have the orchestration here, connecting these security tools together, in that scenario, the firewall tool can directly send out a notification or a trigger to your endpoint tool to quarantine that computer. It's about creating the teamwork based response among your tools. So SOAR here, what the SOAR does is it becomes your conductor. It can integrate, or we can connect multiple tools all together in the SOAR. So through the SOAR becomes your bridge basically. Using that bridge, multiple different domains of tools. It could be threat intel tool, SIEM tool, EDR tools, or uh, threat feeds, anything which you have. All they come together connected to the SOAR, and via SOAR you can have these connections enabled. They all can communicate with each other. So that is what the orchestration would look like. Coming to the orchestration. Now, since you have all these tools integrated, but this is a like integration is there, but now what needs to be done? If something has triggered, what the other tool needs to perform, it needs to be informed, or what action needs to be taken, that we need to think about. So second is the automation. This is the robot part. Like onion, so every tool will have its own superpower. For the firewall, they will see that if something needs to be blocked or not. Then your threat intel tools will tell you what is the reputation of particular different IOCs. And then email gateway tools will tell you, okay, I need to send out an email, or I received the email. So that is the capability of sending and receiving the emails. That is the capability of an email gateway tool. Enriching a IOC is the capability of threat intel tools. Finding and blocking the alerts, IOCs on your network, that is the capability, superpower of your firewall. So these becomes the automation. If orchestration is the teamwork, automation is the superpower of each individual. It is the action. So like suppose we have a cricket team, so every individual will have its own position. If every individual has its own capabilities, someone is a opener, someone is a middle order batsman, and could be a all-rounder bowler or all-rounder batsman. So depending on what is their superpower, they can be used. They all are working together at once in the same field. So that becomes my orchestration. But a person can be a bowler and a person can be a batsman. So that becomes their superpower, that becomes their automation. If we send out a batsman there, he can create those runs. And if we send out a bowler, he can get the other person out. A batsman might not be able to get someone bowled out at a speed of 140 or 150 kilometers per hour. And a bowler who bowls at 150 or 140 kilometers per hour might not be able to hit a century every few games. So that becomes the superpower of those two particular persons or individuals. And they all coming together and working, that becomes your orchestration. And finally comes the response, taking the coordinated action. This brings the first two parts together, end-to-end workflow. So when this all different players come together, they all start using their superpowers, and they create the final result of winning the matches or losing the match, whatever the result could be. That becomes your response. So basically, a the two parts come together, end-to-end workflow for responding to an incident. So if we come to a security incident perspective, we have multiple tools. Like suppose you have an email gateway tool which fetched in a phishing email into your system. So that became your superpower of the phishing email gateway or the email gateway. It pulled in the phishing email in the system. Now the threat intel tool will be used to enrich the IOCs or the IP addresses, URLs which we have from that email and give me the result. That comes from the power of the phishing threat intel tools. Then again, after analyzing, then I have my firewalls also connected with my SOAR. So on that firewall, it's directly I can get those things blocked. I can get a response there and then itself, and this end-to-end workflow becomes my response as well. So we did the orchestration of integrating everything together. We have these superpowers or the capabilities of these tools, that becomes my automation. And when they all work together to create a final response. In this scenario, blocking some IOCs on the firewall and deleting that email from different email inboxes of different other employees. That becomes the response. So when everything comes together, that becomes my orchestration, automation, and response. That becomes basically the SOAR technology or the SOAR logic which we have. So, okay. Yes, Bhupesh.
So I had a question, Mohit. So,
Mm,
for example, when you have SIM, right?
mm,
In the SIM, all these tools that you mentioned, whether it is email gateway or firewall or EDR or whatsoever,
mm.
those logs are already integrated with SIM, right?
Okay.
And that is where you are doing correlation.
Mm,
Now, on top of that, you add SOAR. So my
mm.
question is, these tools, whatever security tools and other log sources, those are already integrated with SIM. Do you again want to integrate everything with SOAR, or can it not take all those integrations from SIM itself?
So, just to answer your query, you mentioned the log sources are integrated via SIM. So firewall logs will get into the SIM part, but SIM cannot directly go and block that IP, that log which you got, the alert which you got from your firewall. It will create a using alert in your SIM using a correlation rule. You got an alert triggered there, but it cannot automatically in general what the SIM capability is. From the current perspective, SIM are also getting advanced. They are also getting these automation capabilities, but in general a SIM is not supposed to go and block something onto the firewall. It is for collecting the logs, creating the correlation rules, and creating the alerts out of it. Now, what the SOAR can do, that alert which came into the SIM, it will pull that. We cannot integrate a log sources with the source. Never have I mentioned that XOR is going to create. So again, I'll mention this uh, explicitly. We cannot integrate a log sources with the SOAR. SOAR cannot generate its own alerts on its own. You need to have a source which is going to send those alerts to the source so that automation and this orchestration response, everything can happen. So the alert triggering or the alert generation will happen to in a third party tool. It could be like, suppose when I was giving the example of that phishing, there as well I mentioned that email gateway is pulling in the phishing email in my source. So you can have that kind of emails. If your SIM supports, you get that emails ingested into your SIM site, generate the alert there, and that alert can again come into the SOAR and the analysis can be taken care of. But the SOAR on itself cannot integrate these log sources, and SOAR doesn't have the capability to do this correlation and create the alerts out of it. You would get thousands of logs from one particular device, and you need to correlate them, and then a final alert would be created based on some particular correlation rule. That suppose for multiple login attempts, if 10 attempts or 30 attempts were made within last 10 minutes, then that would create an alert. The SOAR cannot do this correlation. SIM can do it. That alert will be generated, and then when that alert is pulled into SOAR, then the analysis can take place. Okay, in that logs, how many times was it performed? It can extract that data, whether to send out an email to that person or not, whether to check the role and the access level of that particular person from the AD server or not. So whether to quarantine that system, whether to reset that password. So all these things can be done from the SOAR, but the alert generation can be done from the SIM. You have another query, something?
No, I was just saying that, but for the SOAR to do its work of automation and response,
Mhm.
the integration still has to happen with SOAR, right? For it
Yes,
to do that automation.
yes, that is the orchestration part. We need to connect our tools with the SOAR.
So which means that you are doing the integration both to SIM and in SOAR
So why
in
would you
different.
do your threat intelligence, like your threat intel tool integration with SIM in general? You would be maintaining your database with the threat intel tool, like uh, like suppose for the QRadar, you would have your reference sets created where you are storing your threat indicators. But ideally, are you going to enrich those indicators in your SIM itself? You could integrate a threat intelligence feed into the SIM, But integrating a threat intelligence for enrichment, are we doing that kind of stuff from the SIM side? Or are we blocking some IPs from the SIM? We cannot do that. Yes, we need to integrate it for the logs. You would be integrating a firewall with the SIM. But to take an action on that alert, can SIM do that? So, like, both the tools have different roles here.
Actually, why I was asking that question is that for a recent kind of a situation, customer has some kind of SIM, and customer is going to deploy SOAR now. So that is where this question came to me. I think we will have to integrate at least the major kind of a security tooling to SOAR again to do its task, right, for the automation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
need to tell SOAR what needs to be done. Okay. So it's around 10:05. What these three components are, we have gone through this. We'll take another 15 minutes break so that you guys can also freshen up a bit. And then we'll continue with our further topics, what automation is and what are the aspects of the Cortex X, or what are the different technologies we can integrate. All those stuff we'll look into. Uh, Meanwhile, just let's have a 15 minutes break and we'll come back at 10:20 a.m. IST in 15 minutes from now. Okay.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up or something to just confirm whether everyone is back or not? Okay, let's resume. Yeah. Okay, so we saw before our break what these three components are. Now, could you please, anyone would like to try, like in a day-to-day life, what all automation things you see nearby you? Like just brain, not normal question. Like in a day-to-day life, what all places can you think of like automation is there, or what all devices of automation do you use? Anything which you can think of. No one? Nothing? Okay, let's just see. So, what automation is? Automation is basically making the or doing the same manual thing which a person would have done manually into an some through some particular device or a software or some particular action which can be done by manually but done through a machine or yeah. So to work on the stuff, like suppose you have air tags these days. So that is something which is automating our life, helping us to track our stuff which we might keep and forget, and then we'll have to go and look for it. Or assembly lines in our factories, our car, our mobile phones, our television, everything is a kind of automation. The Alexa which we have in our homes mostly. So it helps us, just we need to speak to it and it can do the stuff like turning on the lights, switching off the lights, playing the music. So all those kinds of stuff comes under the automation. Similarly, anything which we were doing manually using the other tool, security tools, if we get it all to talk together and to do its stuff automatically, that becomes our security automation. Now let's see what is inside this technology. So what are the capabilities of the SOAR, actual capabilities which we have? So using the SOAR, we can do the incident and the case management. So basically what SOAR provides you with, it provides you with the central hub of the investigation and the alerts. It helps you to understand, okay, where it gives you a single pane of glass where from different tools or different sources, from like suppose in a single SOAR you can have the alert generated from the QRadar as well. In a single SOAR you can have alert generated from Splunk. Single SOAR you can have all your alerts generated in your firewall or some mails which are getting created in your email gateways. All these alerts, different types of alerts, can all come together into one single pane of glass. So your analyst team doesn't now need to go and log in into multiple different tools. You have one single tool where or single platform where the team will log in into. They will navigate to the incident section and they will be able to see all the alerts from all these sections. If you are having a MSSP scenario, you can have all your customers integrated together into one single platform. But again, like for example, if we go into the Cortex XSOAR specifically, you have the MSSP scenario, but the data which sharing which you will be happening will not be there. So if you have multiple customers, suppose 5 customers are there, all are connected with your SOAR. So the data of all these 5 people or 5 organizations will be totally segregated. Their backend files will be all totally segregated. So no data sharing will be there. But the analyst team, the SOC team who is performing their actions, they can directly log in into that one single platform. They can select the account, and from that account, they can see the alerts of that particular team. So they don't need to log in into 5 different tools for 5 different customers. You have one single tool, select the name of the customer, and you will find the alerts for that. So that way, you have the whole incident management and the case management capabilities of creating the collecting the alerts, performing your actions on it, generating tickets from there. So all those things can be configured through the or completed through the SOAR power. That comes the threat intelligence manager. Now, when we say threat intelligence manager, what does it mean is it can create its own database of the threats or the IOCs, indicators of compromise. So whatever the threat intel which you have be getting generated from your alerts which you are getting, or from some threat feeds which you have, and there is one national vulnerability database, suppose, or the CVs which you are getting, all those things we can create a database and store it in our SOAR itself. Later on, when some new alert, suppose, comes into the picture, today you got some alert, you extracted its source IP and stored it into XOR. Later on, after 3 months, suppose with the same IP and another attack was attempted. So then there can be a relationship shown. You can directly see, okay, this IP was seen in this particular type of incident 3 months back. What analysis that particular person did in that? What was the action taken there? All those kind of stuff you can correlate back to the 3 months old incident as well, and you can check, that particular analyst can check what steps and actions were taken in that scenario. Second thing could be, if you want to maintain all the CVs in one place, and using that you create a taxi server or something, or an EDL which would directly go and keep on blocking those IPs into your firewall. So suppose your SOAR is collecting all these indicators from different sources. They are getting stored in your threat intel management. Now, instead of going and calling your firewall every time to block one IP, two IP, three IPs every one single of time, you can create a logic which will automatically collect all these IP addresses or all these IOCs, directly send it to the threat intel to your firewall and get it blocked. And firewall team can configure that, and it keeps on getting blocked in a periodic manner, in a recurring manner. So that manual effort of closing or blocking something or repetitively calling one after the other, that gets mitigated. So you have a one single repository for all your threat intelligence. You have a one single repository for all your case management and incident management. Then comes the major capability or the superpower of the SOAR, that is the playbook or the workflow engine. So we call it as playbooks, where the automation actually happens. I'll give you a walkthrough of what actually looks like, what these playbooks look like. But the playbooks is basically the SOP. The SOP which you get in a PDF format, if you convert it into a playbook, or if you have to create a SOP for your SOAR tool to understand that after which step, what step needs to be taken, what action needs to be taken care of after which action. The workflow which we create, or the workflow diagrams which we have, flow diagrams, the playbooks actually look similar to that. So the logic or the brain which we provide into the SOAR on its own doesn't know in what type of incident what action needs to be taken. You need to guide it. You need to fail. So SOAR can help you with all the stuff, but you need to train it or guide it that, okay, after in a scenario of a phishing alert, after extracting the IOCs, you need to go to the threat intel and management tool. This tool, you need to enrich it. For this tool, you need to enrich this. So that way you need to guide the threat, like your SOAR tool, using the playbooks, that after which step, what step needs to be performed. And finally, it comes the collaboration. Now, when we say collaboration, what does it mean? Every team member which is having access to your SOAR tool, they can collaborate with each other. Like in WhatsApp, if you have a group, you do just @ and the other person's name. So they would be notified that someone mentioned you. Similarly, if you want like L1 wants a supervision or some inputs from an L2. So they can directly just do an @ and provide the username of that L2 person. And that L2 team person will be automatically notified that you have been added to this particular incident, and they can collaborate there. That L2 can go and review that use case, and they can internally collaborate, stating that, okay, this needs to be also done, this step also needs to be performed. All those kinds of collaborations is possible. So these are the basic things which can be done through these: threat intelligence management, case management, incident management, security operations, playbook management. Everything we can do through this SOAR. Now, what all tools we can integrate with the SOAR? SOAR doesn't work alone. What all tools we can integrate? So the greatest strength is its ability to unify existing security tools. You have a diverse set of security tools distributed across your organization, multiple tools your organization has bought, but you would either require multiple teams to handle those, or no one is maintaining, or there's no coordination between these tools. So the SOAR comes into the picture. You integrate those tools, whichever are possible, which are having an API available for them. You get it integrated with your SOAR, and then they can be leveraged from the SOAR itself. No one needs to go to a particular team to get it done. Now, what type of tools we can integrate? Firstly, the SIEM, the where the actual alerts in general in a SOC operation are generated. Splunk, QRadar, Sentinel, Google SecOps, multiple tools are there. You integrate it with this, and you will start fetching in the new alerts from these third-party tools. Then comes the endpoint detection and response tools. You have multiple EDRs which you can integrate. You have the firewalls. Like for example, for the firewalls, like Palo Alto itself provides multiple firewalls. It is a very big vendor of the firewalls. So all those firewalls can be integrated with the XOR. The network devices which you have, you can integrate those with the XOR. So like for example, for the firewalls, what a use case could be? In a firewall scenario, a use case could be that you are earlier manually going and upgrading those firewalls. You need to upgrade those firewalls with the latest patches or the latest softwares or the best suitable versions, which you are getting from your vendor itself. That information comes from the vendor. But earlier, you used to go create a ticket, get its approval, then go download that firewall file or the new updated file, upload it, install it, need to take the downtime. All those stuff needs to be done manually. It would take a lot of time. But in now, what you can do using the SOAR, if you have your firewall integrated, all you need to do is using the internet, you can get the file downloaded in the SOAR itself. You can use your service ticketing tools to send out tickets to your upper management. The upper management can approve them. SOAR can automatically read that, okay, this ticket has been approved, and then go ahead with installation of that downloaded file. It will take whatever time it might take, and then later on send out an email notification that the firewall has been upgraded. Now, this is for one firewall. You can batch upgrade multiple firewalls if you have the capability, if you have the resources, and your SOAR is capable enough of. You can do the batch upgrade of multiple firewalls in multiple regions all together at once. So depending on the compute and the sizes, these kinds of use cases can be built. Then comes the email gateways. Now, when I say email gateways like Gmail, O360, Microsoft O365, you have Gmail, you have so or any SMTP or IMAP, all these kinds of different tools which you have, where you are getting your emails created, you are sending out emails, you are receiving emails. All those email gateways can also be integrated with your SOAR. Now, where this email gateways comes into the picture, the way I was asking that you need to send out an email notification to your supervisor stating that you need some approval. So how will that SOAR do? SOAR will use the same email gateway which you have integrated, use that email inbox or email ID which has been used there to send out an email. And whatever response that or reply that particular person is giving, your supervisor is providing, that can be again read by the SOAR using that same email integration. So you can send mails, you can receive mails. So suppose a use case, what could be, you have a phishing mailbox or phishing inbox where all your employees are reporting their emails as phishing are coming. So whenever an employee hits a button for report phishing, there is a rule set in the your email gateway states that that email moves to a particular inbox. So your SOAR can then directly read that particular email box. Whatever emails are coming to that inbox, which are marked as phishing by your employees, they will be coming into that inbox. From that inbox, SOAR can read it, pull it into XOR. Now, once those alerts are in XOR, you can have your playbooks defined to do the phishing analysis on it. Based on your analysis, it can either automatically decide or it can be done through the analyst intervention stating that, okay, this is a phishing or it is not a phishing. And accordingly, that quarantine part or deleting it from different other platforms, all those things can be done. That comes the threat intel. Now, threat intelligence includes virus total, abuse IPPT, OS, NVD, CVEs, and then yeah, recorded future. All the threat intel tools which we have where we do the enrichment of the IOCs, that comes under the threat intel part. Finally, in threat intel also you have two more which are out of the box with Palo Alto's Cortex XSOAR. If you have the threat intelligence license, you would be getting Unit 42 intelligence and you would be getting Unit 42 feeds. Now, what are the difference between these two? Unit 42 intelligence is the tool which basically, threat intelligence is a tool which basically is used to enrich the data, like IPs which you get or the URLs which you get or IOCs which you get, and you want to get the reputation out of it. So you can use that Unit 42 threat intelligence integration. Now, if you want to get the new IOCs which are being collected by Palo Alto itself, like Palo Alto threat intel team is there, internal team, which would be checking on a regular basis and maintaining its own database. So they also publish a feed. So that feed we can collect and get it integrated with our XOR. So whatever new findings this Palo Alto or some other vendor and they have their own feeds created, we can integrate them and we can collect such kind of IOCs as well in our database so that we are updated with the industry's latest threats and the IOCs or the new CVAs. So our database automatically updated. So whenever a new threat comes, suppose, and it contains a CV or it contains a hash file, and we already have that hash in our uh, we already have that hash in our threat intelligence database. So once we have it, we can directly know that, okay, it is going to be malicious. You don't need to go and again enrich it. So that saves you the time and the efforts and the number of API calls you are going to make. Finally comes the ticketing system. Now, ticketing system is basically your ServiceNow or a Jira, the most two common ones which we use. You want to create your tickets, you want to maintain those updates, or you need to see what is the update on the ticket, whether it is closed, active, status of those tickets, creating a new ticket, deleting a ticket. Every kind of action can be performed using the SOAR. So these are the different aspects of the tools which we can integrate. There are plenty of tools. Now, if I want to show you what all tools are there, let me just stop sharing my screen once. Okay. So marketplace. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this is the place. So we call it marketplace. So the way we have a app store or a the way we have the Play Store in our mobile phones, the App Store in iOS and the Play Store in our mobile phones. The same way we have a, sorry, Deepak, can you stop annotating? Just a second. Yeah. So the way we have App Store or the Play Store in our phones, similarly, we have a marketplace in Cortex XO. Now, under this, you will find a lot of integration. So if you see the integration count, it is showing 1193. So these many integrations or these many devices or the tools, or maybe you can say connectors we have, which can be integrated with your SOAR. Now, using these different tools, you can perform. Like suppose if I just search for Gmail. So under Gmail itself, you have two integrations. One is Gmail, which is basically Gmail API and user management. And the second one is single user. So like the Gmail accounts which we use. So if you want to integrate your own Gmail inbox, you would use this particular integration. Now, what does this integration do? If you open it, you will get to understand what actually this integration does. What are the different things? So ability to send emails and fetch emails as an incident in XOR. use this pack only when you want to fetch and send emails from a single user mailbox. If you have a multi-user mailbox, then you will be using the other integration which we had. So you can install this. Now, how to install, that is all we can see in the XOR tool itself. Now, what all comes with this? What are the dependencies? What is the version history? It provides you all the details around this. If you select on this, you have the two options, Cortex XOR, Cortex XSIAM. So the same marketplace is available for both these tools. If you go with the XSIAM, it will give you the details around the XSIAM part. If you go with the XOR, it will give you the details of the XOR part. So this way, we have around 1150 plus integrations available, which we can use and integrate in our XOR. So it is advised that you go through this marketplace whenever a new requirement comes. Suppose you want to integrate Tenable. So which Tenable, or maybe suppose AWS, something regarding AWS you want to integrate. So we have around 38 integrations from AWS. AWS ACM, Access Analyzer, Athena, CloudTrail. Now different services of AWS, different types of tools. AWS EC2, EKS, CloudWatch Logs, GuardDuty, IAM. So depending on the tool, you can download it, integrate it with your XOR, and work on it. So it depends on the use case. Now, how you are going to choose this? The engineering team, the backend team who develops these playbooks for you, from a SOC analyst perspective, you are not going to develop these playbooks. You are the end users who are going to use these tools. You are going to use these playbooks or the automation scripts which are written. But the one who develops this, they need to go through these tools and see which tool actually helps them, which commands actually helps them, which is useful, and then accordingly they will go and integrate it. Now, integration and all is different aspects, but this is how it is done. So these are the number of tools which we have. Any doubts, anyone so far?
No doubt, Mohit, and doubt is for again SIM versus SOAR, right? Just had a question. See, of course, like in some environment, if SOAR is not there and only SIM is there, and of course, SIM cannot do automation, right? But I think some of those things like case management, investigation, that can still be done in SIM, isn't it? Is that correct?
You can do the investigation, but can you integrate multiple tools and take the response from the SIM as well? Investigation, you can, like, ideally, as the native approach or the manual approach was, for a SIM alert generated in QRadar, a person would have to go to the QRadar, log in into QRadar, open that alert, see the details. That was the actual approach which used to do. Now, to automate that is only where we are getting this SOAR tool. Investigation can be definitely done from the SIM, but
Okay.
can we enrich those details there and then itself? Can we create an automated response out of it? Can we create an automated analysis out of it in the SIM itself? Can SIM do those aspects?
Hmm.
It can't do that.
Okay.
Hey, you can, like, the investigation would be manual in that scenario. But from the SOAR, whatever data you have generated in your SIM can be pulled into the SOAR, and using the scripts or the logics which you define. Now, this again, this needs to be defined by the person who's developing this. The way they develop it, the way they define that, okay, if I'm getting this event ID, suppose I'm just giving a basic example. If you have a particular Microsoft log and if you're getting some event IDs, so if that particular event ID is noticed or seen, you are going to do so and so actions. But if some different event ID is seen, you are going to do a different action. So SIM cannot define, you can define the correlation rules to correlate these logs and create an alert. But what action needs to be taken then, that needs to be done either manually from the SIM. But the SOAR can do that actually on its own if you have defined that logic there.
Yeah, yeah. And one more question is about the enrichment, right? So, can you explain enrichment a bit? Of course, I have some understanding, but I think I still want some more details about what is enrichment and what kind of things are there as part of this
So when we are going
incident
through
or
the
alert.
So when we are going through the tools, probably in our next session, when we are going through the playbooks, I can show you what actually the enrichment looks like from a
Okay,
particular tool perspective. I can do that.
okay.
Hello, sir.
About like a last question from me, right? Sorry, Prasad, one last question. See, we spoke about SOAR and automation, all those things, right, which look good on paper. But then, based on your experience, this automation, right? I know that in an organization, when we set up for automation, like taking automated access on firewall or any other device, sometimes that is questionable, right? Because it may require various level of approvals, and if something goes wrong, that becomes a challenge. So, what has been your experience? This automation works up to what limit, right? So, does it work completely or partially, or what's the
Uh,
experience?
Bhupesh, I'd like to take that question at the end of the session because it is something more a generic one. So at the end of the session, I'll take up that question. I have the answer to that. Uh, but specifically sticking to this topic as of now, what SOAR is, let's go through those first. For the
Good, good
Bill,
question.
can you
So,
just stay on mute for a time? So we'll take it up at the end. Yeah, someone else had some other query regarding anything regarding these
Sir,
two?
I have two questions. I have posted in chat box.
Okay. There are three terms: SOP, runbook, and playbook. This okay, and also heard that playbook is a part of the SOAR, but okay. So to answer your question number one. So basically, as playbooks, what you mentioned that it actually looks like a flowchart. Now in that flowchart, every box will have a script or a command behind it or some action behind it. So in pen and paper, when we do, we directly create, like suppose we create a diamond which is like a conditional branch stating that if the condition is yes, you go this branch. If the condition is no, you go the other branch. That is the manual or the logical flow which we define on the paper. If you convert that same thing into the SOAR terminology, we create a playbook out of it. Now the it looks the same, but when it reaches that conditional task, there would be some condition behind it, which it will check whether this condition satisfies or not. If my condition is getting satisfied, it will take the yes branch automatically. If my condition is setting not satisfying, it will take the else branch. So suppose if you have an understanding of the if else in your coding language, I'm not sure how much is the experience with the coding part, but if you have understanding of if else on any language, so
Conditions.
yeah, so if the conditional statement, so if the if statement satisfies, it goes to that particular branch, otherwise it will go to the else branch. Similarly, those kinds of automation is done through the playbook itself. In the playbook there you don't need to go and manually select go to the else branch or yes branch. XOR or the playbook will automatically read the condition. If the condition matches, it goes to the right branch. Otherwise, it goes to the left branch. Now, in that branch, whatever steps are there, it will be also performed automatically. Now, who creates this playbook? Now, this playbook needs to be created by someone. It can be coming from the out of the box. Like suppose if I go here in this. So suppose let's just say ACM. I'll just take this up. If I go to the, we don't have a content here. Let me check the Gmail one itself. We have there. Let's say Splunk. So we have the Splunk integration. Okay. In this content, if you see, there would be the playbooks. They don't the playbooks part. So you have these two common playbooks available. Now, what does this playbook does? The description is provided doing the generic analysis of a from a SOC perspective, including notifying the SOC, enriching the data, all this stuff. So this is done using this playbook. Now, someone from the Palo Alto itself has created this playbook for you and giving it as a free service to you. This is a generic one. Now, for your organization, depending on your requirements or the SOP which you say or the runbook which you say, it could differ. In your organization, you might have to do few other steps or the steps mentioned in this generic workflow. It could be different. Let me just see if we have a playbook. And so let me just see if I have an image of that. Suppose, let me just zoom it a bit. Let's just take this one. So suppose this is a playbook. Now The looks it does look different. Splunk SOAR Playbook Explorer. So this is from the Splunk SOAR where you are seeing the first task comes here. It comes to this conditional task, and based on some conditions, is taking the branches. Now inside this, again, based on some conditions, it will take different branches and perform different actions. Now suppose this is something which is out of the box. Now you want to change it, like this particular branch is not relevant to you. So you can go and delete this particular branch from there and have it in your organization. Or suppose this particular branch is not required, but some modification is required in this particular app, or this particular task needs to come here. So those kinds of definition or changes need to be performed first. First, then only the alerts which are coming, they will be able to run on these. So we'll go into the playbooks logic, what playbooks are, how playbooks are defined, and what is the look and feel of the playbooks. We'll go through all those in the tomorrow session itself. We have the next topic as what are the playbooks are, different types of the playbooks, all those stuff we'll go through tomorrow. So I believe that would answer your question more clearly tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Once and threat intel data and leave it to SOAR to take the action automatically. Another one is I guess SIEM is more manual and SOAR is constant. Leave it to SOAR to take the action.
So the second question, yes, SIM is more from the manual perspective. So SIM is like basically for creating those alerts, for generating those alerts. But SOAR is something to work on those alerts. SOAR cannot generate these alerts and collect the logs and generate this alert. But once an alert is generated, what action needs to be taken, that can be seen through and done through the SOAR. So SIM generates the alerts, SOAR works on those alerts. You can understand it that way. Someone is cutting down the tree and the carpenter is working on that wood. It is something like that.
SOAR is not pulling information directly.
So, like once you have that alert generated in the SIM, you
Oh,
would be pulling the data from that SIM into the SOAR using these tools itself, like this Splunk integration which I have.
uh-huh.
It is going to pull the data from the Splunk. So now the Splunk P2 or Splunk PY, depending on the version, you integrate it. Now, whatever alert is getting generated in Splunk will keep on getting automatically pulled into XOR. An incident would automatically get created, and eventually you would be that analyst can work directly on that alert in the SOAR. Now, how mature your playbook you want to define? You want to have it end to end, you want to have it like 50-50, that all things can be set accordingly, and we'll explore that more in tomorrow's session.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Hi
you.
Mohit.
Or we can say it's basically work on knowledge base and the rules we create to pull the.
Yeah, the workflows which you create, the knowledge bases, the tools which you have to. So say SOAR is basically the tool which helps you to use all other tools at one place. You can say it that way.
So
You have
another flavor of AI, eh?
You can say that. Earlier, AI was something, AI is like giving a prompt and doing it. Here, you need to firstly manually create it, and then later on, it can keep on doing it. It's just something you can say in that another manner. Like suppose in the store, specifically to the Cortex XSOAR platform, we have more than 1,000 plus third-party tools. You can integrate your SIM the tools. People can integrate, or suppose some of those 1,150 tools which we saw. Suppose some tool is there which is not having that connector in that marketplace. So, and if it supports API, you can write your own code. You can write your own script and connect it with XOR. So basically, XOR uses the REST APIs mostly to communicate with these tools. So once you have the REST APIs defined, you can use them. Then you have a community. So there is a live community available where people collaborate together and they talk to each other for the new use cases or the new something which they can develop or they have developed. And then finally, you have the again the same thing. SIM can be integrated. Your different tools from the Cortex side itself, Expanse, XDR, they can be integrated. You can integrate your Prisma Cloud with the SOAR. So any open source tools. So all these tools can be integrated, and these tools generate the alerts. These alerts come into action. We orchestrate them, real-time collaboration can be performed, case management can be done, and eventually the end-to-end life cycle of this incident can happen from the SOAR instead of having multiple play tools to log in into. So a comprehensive SOAR platform helps improve the security operations by combining security tools together, breaking down the silos by facilitating team collaboration and enabling security analysts. So when we say team collaboration, is not just within the SOC team, but across the team itself. The firewall team, the email team, threat intelligence team, the SOC team, all teams can collaborate. All they need to have is access to the SOAR, and they all can collaborate one place in one particular tool itself. Then one single centralized console to manage, as I was mentioning, for all the aspects of the company security. One tool you have, from there you can manage all these tools. You want to upgrade these tools, you want to block something, you want to suppose very basic use case, I'll say, if a new employee is coming into your organization. So earlier you used to go and manually create details and account for that person in your Active Directory. But now what all needs to be done? HR needs to just trigger an email. That email comes to the SOAR. SOAR will read that email, collect the data out of that email body, stating that what is going to be the user name of that person, under which manager, who is it. All those details it can collect, go and create a user account for that particular new person in the Active Directory on its own, collect the details and send it back to the HR. So earlier, what used to be taking a lot of time for HRs to go and get this account created, multiple follow-ups, they just need to send out one mail, and XOR will do everything on its own and send out another mail back to the HR stating that this new account has been created with username and password. So that person can use it directly. So that saves you the time, that saves you the manual efforts which were required. And then finally creating efficiencies like this. It is more efficient to just send out one email rather than having multiple follow-ups, with opening and closing of tickets, investigation, resolving incidents, all those things. It provides you the convenience with it. Okay, and now we have two more queries available here. How many classes do we have on the SOAR? Probably three more classes would be required tomorrow, and then next week, 3 to 4 more classes would be required for this. Will be recordings available? Yes, the recordings would be uploaded on the LMS after some time, like today after some time. Once the recordings are ready, the SIM team will upload it on the LMS and you can go through those. Now comparing the real world scenario of the phishing with the SOAR, like what we saw earlier, what the real world scenario is and what the SOAR actually can do from the phishing analysis perspective. Without SOAR, analysts manually copies and copy paste these IPs and URLs and hashes into the security tool. That was a manual stuff which they do. Analyst interprets the raw data from various sources and makes a subjective call on the threat level. That okay, and now this subjective law call is very important word. Reason being, an L1 can have a different subjective call compared to an L2. An L1 with 2 years of experience can have a different subjective call compared to a L1 of 3 years of experience. So depending on the experience, depending on the type of the analysis they do, they will manually log in different systems. They will collect the data to block the data, or if suppose they have the access to block as well or to delete as well, they will have to manually go and block these details or send out an email to their respective team, follow up with them, get those things blocked. Finally, analyst spends time writing the manual case notes, copying the screenshots, documenting the actions, often leading to the inconsistency and not standard process. So handling 50 such identical alerts requires 50 separate time-consuming manual investigations, leading to analyst burnout. If you have to do this same thing 20 or 30 times itself, you will feel burnout. Now with the SOAR in the picture, platform automatically extracts all the indicators, enriches them simultaneously from all integrated tools. So let me just show you what exactly we mean by enrichment. Let's just say we have virus total. Virus total. Okay. So let's say we go to the virus total and I want to search for the details of what is the details about www.fb.com. Suppose I have this URL and I want to see what are the reputations and the details around this. So this process of using a third-party tool, this is a threat intelligence tool. Here I can see file values, I can search for the hashes or all these IPs, domain URLs I can search. Like suppose if I just mention it here, fb.com. And if I hit enter, so it will tell me the details about this particular URL. This is the URL, with whom is it registered, when was it created, when was the last analysis date. Now from different tools it will tell you, and finally it will also give its own score. So community score is 6 and 0/91 is the score given by the virus total. So this is what the enrichment is actually. Suppose let's take some particular IP 8.6.5.59.5, just a random IP I'm just taking. If it doesn't have any idea around this, it will say that okay, this is nothing. It is giving us score of 0. But if it is a genuine IP address, or if it is a genuine, let's just try with something like uh, some malicious IP like torrent.com. Let's just try with this. So now you see it, you're getting a 1 score. Security vendor flagged a domain as malicious. So score is 1, but this has been already flagged as malicious by Viper. Rest of all of them are stating it as clean. Then these tools are saying we have unrated it, we don't know. So virus total, what it is doing, it is querying all these tools, collecting the data, and based on its own logic, giving you a score stating that okay, whether it is malicious, whether it is benign, what it is. So this is one thing which the analysts have to do manually. But now what we can do, the XOR, in the XOR workflow, what will happen? It will come to the incident. It will automatically extract that source IP. It will automatically make an API call to the virus total, get that score, come back and show it to the analyst directly, or get it prepared for the analyst to see that okay, this is the score from the virus total, this is the score from the recorded future, this is your score from your abuse IPPD. Multiple tools, multiple scores. Earlier the analyst would have to go log in into these 4 tools, enter the data and get the score. But now all these data is present to them in that same page, in that one single table, 4 tools, 4 different scores for the same IP. So you don't need to do that stuff manually. That is what actually the enrichment means here. Now, what needs to be done? Playbook applies predefined logics. Now, these logics are defined by the team who developed this playbook to collect the data, providing an instant, consistent, evidence-based verdict. Now, since if you have set a particular condition and hard-coded it, so every time it is going to use that same condition itself, it is not going to differ from there. So it helps you to standardize your procedure, your SOP. So the SOP which you have set, that will always get followed. It is not going to do that from a workflow. You have 5 steps. Out of that 5 steps, SOAR skips 1 step and directly jumps onto the third one. It will first do the first step, then second step, then third step. So it will always follow the procedure. It will always follow the scripts which you have written in a proper systematic manner. Then finally, if the analyst finds that all these verdicts are malicious and they want to quarantine something or they want to block something, you can have sorry you can have buttons defined. You click a button and automatically a command or a script runs at the backend and it goes and blocks that IP or that URLs across the systems. Or you can quarantine a system. You can delete the email, phishing email from multiple email inboxes. So all those things can be done just through a click of button, and everything will be taken care of at the backend by the SOAR. Then there is one more thing. Till now, whatever thing what the analyst was doing, there is no actual documentation what steps he did. There is something which we need to understand, that analyst, we are trusting that analyst stating that okay, you performed it. But in the SOAR, it gives you a proper audit log, that what step happened after which step, what condition was checked, who performed it, at what time they performed it, everything, at what date, everything which is getting generated, it will be logged into the place called war room. Now we'll see tomorrow what the war room is, with the actual timestamp, generating a perfect audit trail. And the other thing important is this audit trail is immutable. We cannot delete it. We cannot edit it. So suppose if some alert is there, and if an analyst, two alerts he is working on, alert number 1 and alert number 2, by mistakenly he entered the analysis of 1 into the 2. So that is a wrong analysis for alert number 2. He hit enter, a ticket is created in the service now. So in general, what analyst does is in XOR, they go and rerun this whole playbook or rerun this whole incident. So thinking that they will create a new ticket. A new ticket will be created with the correct response. But when the ServiceNow team or the team who handles the ServiceNow tickets, they see, they will find that two different tickets are created for the same alert but different analysis. They will reach out to your SOC manager. SOC managers will reach out to you why two alerts were created. You won't be having any answer. So they will reach out to the SOAR backend team who handles the actual operations at the backend side. They will dig down, so where they can see what happened. They will come to this war room and they will see that this playbook was rerun. Initially, a separate answer was given, and finally, a different answer was provided, and this playbook was rerun with this person. So you cannot skip that. And then your SOC managers might give you a pass for the first warning, second warning, but multiple times if you are doing this, some action can be taken against you by why you are multiple times rerunning these playbooks when you are not supposed to do that. So anything which is being done through a particular incident or in an incident, everything will be logged in this war room. This is an audit trail and a report which you have. So finally, the most important aspect, or if you have 50 alerts for the same phishing, all these 50 alerts can run simultaneously. Earlier, we used to have, suppose if we had 5 analysts also, so at a time, 5 alerts can be processed. But using a SOAR, all the 50 alerts can be processed automatically in a parallel sequential manner. So it does it in a parallel manner itself. So you don't need to depend on the analyst timings. They all can keep these 50, SOAR can keep the data ready for all these 50 alerts simultaneously. So whenever, once the analyst comes, 5 people can come, 5 alerts sorted, then again 5 alerts sorted, then 5 alerts sorted. That will save you the time and the processing powers as well. Any doubts, anyone?
So I have
One in the
I
chat
have one
box.
question related to automation. So any suppose we defined or created 50 rules, okay,
Mhm.
and maybe there is a chance of we get any incident or any kind of activity which is captured by SIEM but not defined in the rules, so rules
Okay.
or playbook. So
Hmm.
how do
So
show?
see, I understand. Like you have maybe in your sim, you could have 200 or 300 different types of rules defined, correlation rules,
Yes,
different 200, 300 use cases you can have. But in SOAR, in general, you might not have those many playbooks because defining playbooks, creating playbooks takes a lot of efforts and the times. So what happens is, in general, what the SOAR team do, they create a generic playbook. Like you saw for the Splunk, we had a generic playbook. So if any alert which comes, suppose you have a multi-login failed attempt, which we took the example earlier,
mm,
there is a playbook defined for it. So it will come into the SOAR, it will check whether we have a playbook for this or not. If we have a playbook for this, then it will run that dedicated playbook for it. But if we don't have a dedicated playbook for it, in general, we do have a generic use case playbook. That is, it can do the generic basic investigation and give it to the analyst with the basic details, which in general is performed across all the use cases. So that kind of a generic playbook then runs on those kinds of alerts automatically. You don't need to map it. It will be done automatically. But yes, you need to have a playbook defined and created for that. If you don't have anything defined, then it will take a blank playbook and it will wait for the analyst to perform some action over that.
yeah, okay. So thank you. What I want, okay. So anything land into SIM tool should
Mhm.
not be missed by source. Whether it
It will pull everything from
mm,
a. If you have 100 alerts generated in your SIM, all the 100 alerts will get pulled into SOAR until unless you have defined a filter there. Now,
yes,
once you have all these alerts, if you have a, suppose in those 100 alerts, they are out maybe 5 different use cases. In those different use cases, if you have dedicated playbook for all those use cases, those different playbooks would run on those 100. But if suppose out of those 100, 30 incidents are such where we don't have a dedicated playbook. So in that scenario, that generic playbook which you have defined, that will go and apply automatically over it. So all the 100 are getting processed. Maybe 70 are getting processed by a dedicated use case playbook. Rest 30 are getting generated or processed by the generic one. Now, the generic ones might not do the remediation and all those stuffs automatically. There, the analyst intervention would be required more. The dedicated playbooks, they would be having a proper set of instructions. So in that scenario, the manual intervention or manual inputs might be required less. So depending on what the use case is, if it is a dedicated one, the automation can be end to end. You can have a complete end to end and automation, or you can have a 30-40, 60-40, something like that. So it depends on how the playbooks are defined.
Got it. Got it. Because it's understandable. Because a dedicated playbook which we create definitely will have all the
Yes.
remediation plan. Okay, then
Yes.
everything we can integrate. But generic will have at least we want to know the indicator of compromise what we got, and at least incident has been generated so that anything which is not orchestrated can be manually remediated.
Yes,
So
that kind of logic you can define, and eventually it will take a place in the SOAR on its own.
So does it take wildcard entry as well? So
Wildcard entries as in?
like account log or just use case can have n number of reasons. Okay. So if we give the account then wildcard, so it will take what was the reason.
So it's like in Splunk, when you're defining the integration, you would have to provide a query, what you want to pull. So whatever query you provide, accordingly, that will get pulled into XOR. If you don't provide a query, it will pull everything. So you can filter out on the basis of those queries.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, one more question. So can we use AI in SOAR as well?
We'll go through those things when we are going through the integration. But yes, to an extent, you can use some AI, Gen AI tools, but not to like a full end-to-end AI thing.
Okay.
Okay.
As a assistant, thank you.
Okay.
Sir,
Prasad, you have this one query, I believe, from the like that would come under the threat intelligence management or indicator database management, where you would have to do a reconciliation. Again, that logic needs to be defined. You are blocking something, and from the SOAR, you get a hacker's IP address, you got it, or some IP address which is ingested into XOR. At present, its reputation is malicious. Later on, maybe after 1 month, its reputation changes from malicious to maybe suspicious or benign. So that kind of after 1 month, you need to do a reconciliation. Now that reconciliation, how it can be done? It can be done either automatically, like you can have a periodic thing running, a periodic playbook or a periodic trigger that keeps on checking all the IOCs which you have in your database and what is its reputation. If its reputation is changed, it will update it. If it is not changed, then after certain period of time, you can either block them or remove it from your SOAR. Depending on how you want to maintain your database, all that things can be done depending on the use case how we have defined. Okay. And then, Anil, who develops, reviews these playbooks? Is it generally the L3 SOC team or dedicated SOAR team? In general, what happens is there would be one dedicated SOAR team who works on the backend, who will be developing these playbooks, scripts, automations, like integrating these tools for you, creating the rules, user roles, everything. There would be one dedicated SOAR team. Now, this SOAR team, when they have to develop a dedicated playbook, like we were discussing, for phishing itself, if you want to develop a dedicated playbook, that SOAR team, they would in general connect with the SOC team as well. Now, from the SOC team, it would be probably a SOC manager or a L3 or L4 person with whom they will connect, collaborate together, and define what step needs to be performed after which step. They would create a final structure or the workflow manually first in some document. Then, based on that, they will try to convert it into a playbook in the SOAR. Now, maybe 15 steps are there. Out of those 15 steps, 8 or 9 steps can be done totally automated. There, no input needs to be entered by the analyst. But out of those 10 or 15 steps, 8 were automated. Remaining 7, some inputs are required from the analyst. Or remaining 3, some inputs are required. So those things would be catered in such a manner in that playbook that analyst provides that input manually. So anything like the answer to your question, Bhupesh, which you asked, that can we have it totally automated or can we have it for partially automated? We have both the options. Now we need to see how mature our SOC environment is and how much our upper management is allowing us to use the SOAR. It also depends on that. Reason being, sometimes, as you mentioned, blocking something directly on the firewall might not be allowed. So what you can do, you can send out the approvals from the SOAR itself to your approval team. Once they approve it, SOAR will automatically read it and then only go and block it. Directly, it cannot block something. So those kinds of scenarios we need can develop in our internal setup, and eventually we go through it. Or maybe you can directly just log a ticket in your Jira or ServiceNow. Your firewall team separately takes it up from there and goes and blocks it or doesn't block it, depends on that. So how the setup you want, you can define it. Maybe in some scenario, you can have it end-to-end automate, where like some alerts which are very low level alerts, and you don't want your analyst to spend their time on it that much. It is something like a basic level of investigation, which is not very hazardous or like harmful for your organization, you think. So those kind of alerts we can try and automate it end to end, so that it saves the time of the analyst and they can focus on more high priority or critical level of alerts. So that kind of automation can also be done. Any
What
other
I
doubts,
have
anyone?
seen in one of the case, right? I was working for a bank, right? And they had a SOAR team,
Mm,
and there was some kind of automation done, and based on that, there was an action taken on firewall, right, for blocking IP or something.
okay.
And that when that action happened, it turned out to be a false positive, meaning that it should not have been blocked. It was a production IP and it got blocked for whatever reason, right?
Mm,
And that triggered a whole lot of investigation, and which meant that the SOC team had to reverse a lot of their action. So the
mm.
automation eventually was reduced to a minimum number. So my
Ah,
question was more from your experience, Mohit, or even others in this group. How efficient are those automations, right, in various
see,
various industry, and what percentage of automation you guys would have seen maximum
as
in any organization, right? So I was
as a
asking
best,
more from practical perspective.
I understand. So as a best practice, what we recommend, or I would recommend someone, go for a 80-20 approach, where suppose for such blocking scenarios, the analyst needs to verify it first. That, or you can send out a verification email to someone from the team that, okay, these IPs or these details are going to get blocked. Rather going and blatantly just blocking everything, just on the basis of some automation script which is written. Like you are writing a script today, it might be relevant today. But if we are not keeping it updated with the new use case or new changes to our use cases, after 6 months, it might be not that much useful for that particular use case. It might create treat false positives as true positive. So we need to keep on, or the SOAR team needs to keep on updating the use cases, the playbooks. The maturity needs to be maintained. So I would suggest having a 80-20 or 70-30 kind of approach works the best. Reason being, SOAR is also like something which we are telling it to do. So if we can have a one level of check where before blocking something or before taking some action, a analyst level of verification is provided that okay, this all data is getting blocked, verify, and then only it will block it. Now it again depends on the analyst. If they are allowing it, XOR will do. Then it's not a fault of the SOAR. That it is a fault of the SOAR analyst who got it blocked. So that is something that one certain level of verification should be provided. Yes, you can have it end to end. People do have it end to end automations as well. So again, end to end automations, which I have observed, is in cases where that are low or medium priority incidents or something which isn't going to hamper the systems. Like these kinds of blockings, they don't provide directly. But some kind like the automation, full automation, like creating a new user or changing the policy. So even if you have to change a policy on your firewall, a certain level of verification or approval would be required. So once that approval comes, you can send out a mail that okay, block this, you are change this policy. So with that approval email you can send, and then accordingly that use case can be defined. So whatever action SOAR takes, it is something which has been it has been trained or given as an input by the end user itself. So now how the playbook is developed, again, as you mentioned, the SOAR team developed it, but SOAR team also would have interacted with the SOC team, or based on these steps we are going to perform it. If they have added a step for the approval, well and good, that is the best approach I would suggest. But if they are not adding a step for the approval and directly blocking something, then again it is something which needs to be rectified from my understanding. Reason being, that can hamper. Suppose you have not whitelisted google.com from your SOAR. You have not excluded it, and in some email gmail.com got extracted. I have seen this happening in the customer, and it got blocked. So anyone in that organization were not able to use the Gmail in itself. Gmail.com, I guess, got blocked, and they were not able to use the email itself. So then it was research. Finally, it got unblocked from the email firewall, and eventually they were able to use that. So such kind of scenarios do happen. That's why we say we should have a certain level of manual inputs as well. So 80-20 or 70-30 is the best approach that can be taken into consideration, I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, any other doubts, anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, that's end for me for today's session. Tomorrow we'll go through what playbooks are, what are different types of the playbooks, what are the aspects of the playbooks. We'll look into that, and what are different types of tasks from an analyst perspective, what all you need to do.
Mohit,
All
what is
those
70 and 30?
70-30 is
70.
like percentage, I'm saying. 70% is the full automation part, 30% is the manual automation of the playbook. So like 70% of the task, like suppose in a playbook you have 10 tasks, out of that 10, 7 tasks the analyst can perform. The SOAR can do it automatically. Now those 7 tasks could include extracting the IP address, enriching that IP address, creating a table for the analyst to see it in a tabular format, creating a sample analysis for that analyst. Now everything is created. So that a sample analysis, SOAR has done its job. It has extracted all the data and presented it in a formatted manner to the analyst. Analyst can read it through. Now this becomes that reading through becomes a manual step. Analyst would log in into XOR, open that incident, and read that analysis that SOAR has generated, and go through all the different dashboards and the layouts which are present, that okay, all this data is there, and this is the analysis which is created. Now again, analyst needs to define whether it is a true positive or false positive. If analyst says it's a true positive, if they click on true positive, it will be considered as a true positive. If they consider it as false positive, it will be considered as false positive. So that becomes a manual step which I am suggesting. You can also define a logic there. Predefined logics can be defined based on which SOAR will decide, okay, this is a true positive or false positive. If SOAR is deciding, that becomes my automated thing. But if an analyst is going login into XOR and selecting whether true positive or false positive, that becomes my manual intervention from the analyst. So here, 90% of the thing, or 70-80% of the thing was done by the SOAR itself for the analyst. But they finally define that okay, they are the final ones, or the single source of truth would be the analyst, that okay, they define that this is a true positive or false positive.
It also depends on alert criticality also, na?
Yes,
For
yes, yes.
first low, we can do 100% automation. If it is
Depends on the
critical, we can do.
not the severity, I would say. It depends on the like incident type, alert type itself. In some low priority use cases, you might want the analyst to perform the analysis. Some phishing alert can be low as well, and phishing alert can be a critical or high alert, as high severity alert as well. Depending on that, how the logics are defined, it would be on basis of that. So based on the type of the alert, that would be much better to define how much automation is required rather than the severity.
Okay, Mohit. Thank you.
Are we going to
Uh,
learn playbook creation as well?
Playbook creation, as in I can show you what are the different types of the task and all the different aspects of the types of the playbooks and all those things we see. How to define a playbook, I can give you a basic idea, but from a SOC analyst perspective, you are not going to develop these playbooks. It is something which the SOAR team or the backend team, the engineering team would be doing. So we won't be going deep into the development part. We would be going through how to navigate through a playbook, what are the different aspects, and all those things we'll go through.
How much Python knowledge we need to have?
From a SOC analyst perspective, a very basic knowledge of the Python would be required. Reason being, to understand if some task goes into an error and you need to debug it, either you can reach out to the SOAR backend team or you can directly try and see if some basic error is there. You from the input perspective, you can change it. But ideally, you would have to reach out to your SOAR engineering team and they would be making the changes. So basic level of Python understanding helps you to communicate with the engineering team. But in depth of knowledge of Python would not be required from an analyst perspective.
Okay.
What if somebody wants to go for the SOAR advanced level, like writing playbook? Because
So from
I
this course, you won't be able to go into that level. There is some a separate course by the SIEM, Advanced XOR. There they teach actually how to develop the playbooks, how to develop the custom integrations, custom scripts, layouts, different aspects of creating the users, and end to end like full architecture. Everything is taught on that one. From this course, it will be basically from the analyst perspective, how they can interact with the SOAR, what all different tools can be integrated, or how the end-to-end day-to-day life of an analyst would look like when they are using the SOAR.
because I'm at the L3 level, so analyst level will not work. So definitely, I
You
would like
can
to do.
connect with the team and they can help you with that
Okay.
eventually. Okay, guys, that's all from my end today. To answer your query, Bhupesh, it would be around, yeah, we start at 9. Now, there's no hard stop at 11. It could vary from 11 to 11:30, somewhere around. So the sessions would be ranging from 2 to 2.5 hours approx. Maybe someday 5 minutes late, 5 minutes earlier. Not sure.
Are you going to
Thank
share
you,
some
everyone.
study material as well?
Study materials, and I'll provide these PPTs. I can, at the end of the sessions, I'll provide you some with resume pointers, interview questions, all those things I can provide. I can provide you with the proper links which are there, important links available, like the marketplace link, the developer docs, all those things. I'll share it with you. Tomorrow I'll give you the links. And this doc I'll upload it today in a Google Drive and I'll share that link in the WhatsApp. So you guys can access it from there. Okay, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.